Hello, my name is John, and I am presenting a profound mathematical problem with our explanation of evolution that argues strongly for the existence of God. This is an update to a previous presentation you may have seen before. We've been told for years that evolution produced life spontaneously by random chance, and that this is proved by the fossil record, and of course, this in turn proves that there is no God. What we intend to show here is that the evolution of life by random chance is a clear mathematical impossibility, and by inference the existence of life implies the existence of an intelligent creator. To be very clear, we are not talking about whether there were once primitive life forms that later became more complex. Rather, we are discussing how they changed, what mechanism was responsible for the changes. So in order to discredit the widely believed fact that a fossil record proves evolution by random chance, let's start by considering some non-mathematical arguments. Let's show a counterexample by simply examining the skeletons of some modern animals. We will use the common dog, but similar examples could be made for horses and others. Canis canis, the dog. Put the skeleton of a Chihuahua next to a Beagle, next to a Labrador, next to a St. Bernard. It almost looks like a fossil record. But they are all the same species. Large changes in bone size and shape are possible within the same species. Therefore, clearly the bones in the fossil record cannot really be said to prove much about changes in genes, and it is genes that evolve, not bones. But doesn't a fossil record prove that there was no creator? Let's look at another counterexample, the fossil record of the evolution of the automobile. Here are some fossils from an archaeological dig at the edge of town. They are from the evolution of the automobile. We see in each case an axle bone that has been dug up and a reconstructed auto. So the first example would be the Model T Osaurus, axle bone and reconstructed auto. Then the 32 Coupe Osaurus, axle bone and reconstructed auto. Then the 49 Ford Osaurus, axle bone and reconstructed auto, and the 64 Mustang Osaurus, axle bone and reconstructed auto. Clearly, because there is a fossil record in the ground of incremental advancement, automobiles evolve spontaneously and humans are a myth, right? But wait, you may say. There's no DNA in the axle of a car, which is precisely the point. There's no DNA in the fossilized bones that make up the fossil record either. It's all speculation and imagination. It is genes that evolve, not bones. If evolution were a real science, the way they would do it is they would show the evolution between two species by comparing their genomes, enumerating the differences, proposing a mechanism of change, performing a repeatable experiment to show that the proposed mechanism could cause that change in the allotted time, and then repeat as needed. And that leads to a more vexing question. What about the concept of irreducible complexity? For example, how did genes that build the eyeball communicate with genes that form the optical cortex of the brain? Both are highly complex. How did they decide what the interface between them would be? What council of scientists set up the protocols so that they could work together? The hand-waving smoke and mirrors answer from evolutionary pseudoscientists is that this was solved by the vastness of time. We will see in a few slides what a whopper of a lie this is. Before we look at that, there's our old friend, the second law of thermodynamics. This law, to paraphrase, says that entropy tends to increase, or in the vernacular, things tend to rot and fall apart. This is not a cynical joke, it is the engine that allows time to move forward in our universe. One obvious question is, why did life get more complex instead of rotting and falling apart? Evolutionists will say that it only seems like life is defying the second law. The chemical reactions involved all allowed entropy to increase, which seems not to be seeing the forest for the trees. Before life existed, there was a time when there must have been long chains of amino acids forming strings of DNA that had to get pretty long and complicated before they were alive and replicating. We know from attempts to gather DNA for evidence in criminal trials that DNA is very fragile and decays very rapidly. So why didn't the amino acid chains waiting to be part of the first living organism simply rot while waiting for their bus to arrive. Is this another case where the smoke and mirrors, vastness of time, has to rescue things? Let's take a look at just how pathetically inadequate the vastness of time is mathematically. DNA. It's made up of genes, which are made up of base pairs of amino acids, namely adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. They form pairs, AT and CG. There are 500,000 base pairs in even the simplest one-celled life form. There are around 3 billion pairs in a human cell. So let's make things super easy for evolution and start with a simple life form, Mickey the microbe. For Mickey to exist, its genes had to evolve at random with no help from any intelligence. Now, much of the genetic material in Mickey's cell is thought to be mostly inert, so let's make it really super easy for evolution and say that of the 500,000 base pairs in Mickey, only 1 in 50 belongs to a gene that does anything useful. So that's 10,000 positions that we have to account for, each of which can be AT or CG, so that's 2 choices, times 2 times 2 times 2, 10,000 times, or 2 to the 10,000th power combinations of DNA before we get to Mickey. Now, to turn that into the kind of decimal number we're all used to, we know that 2 to the 20th power is a little over 1,000,000. So dividing that 20 out of the 10,000th power leaves about a 500 power. So we raise the 1,000,000 to the 500th power. And as a result, we have more than 1 followed by 3,000 zeros, possible combinations of DNA before you get to Mickey. That's a big number. It looks like this. That's a 1 followed by 3,000 zeros. Wait, there's more. They didn't all fit on the page. Yoicks! That's a pretty big number. So let's look back at ancient Earth. Organic chemicals are supposed to be bubbling around in a primordial soup, bumping into each other and forming DNA. But the Earth was around a long time, we are told, long enough to form DNA. Not by a long shot. Trying one combination of DNA every second since the Earth was formed gives you 4 billion years times 31,536,000 seconds per year is approximately 141,912,000,000 billion seconds. Let's round it up to a billion seconds. That's a 1 with 18 zeros. So we have time to combine 1 with 18 zeros combinations of DNA. Let's divide that from the 1 with 3,000 zeros we have to solve, and you have less than 1 chance in 1 followed by 2,982 zeros of forming Mickey's one-celled genome by random chance. But wait, there wasn't just one DNA chain evolving at once. Maybe there were a billion at once, or even better, a billion chains evolving in parallel on every square meter of the Earth. That's 510 quadrillion square meters, so round it up to 1 followed by 15 zeros, then times the 1 billion organisms. So that's 1 followed by 24 zeros. So dividing out 24 zeros, you still have less than 1 chance in 1 followed by 2,958 zeros of forming that little one-celled Mickey by random chance. But wait, maybe evolution was faster than that. Maybe it can form genes in the smallest time interval there is, which is known as Planck's time. Planck's time is about 3.3 times 10 to the minus 44 seconds. Let's be generous and say we evolve 1 followed by 46 zeros times per second. So dividing out 46 more zeros, you now have less than 1 chance in 1 followed by 2,912 zeros of forming a one-celled genome by random chance. But wait, maybe evolution happened in chunks. Maybe once you had 8 pair strings lying around, those strings started to combine. The problem is, without any intelligent agent to tell you which string to pick, you end up with just as many choices to make. Adding 8 pairs, one at a time, is 2 times 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 2, or 256 choices if you add them one at a time. But there are 256 possible 8-pair strings. So unless you bring some intelligence into the selection, random chance has to make just as many choices when you evolve in chunks. But wait, maybe the evolution of DNA started before the Earth was formed. The universe is about 3 times as old as the Earth. Let's round that up to 10 times. So dividing by another 10, you now have less than 1 chance in 1, followed by 2,911 zeros, of forming Mickey's one-celled genome by random chance. But wait, maybe evolution started on other planets. The number of habitable planets in the galaxy is unknown, but let's shoot high and say it's 100 trillion. That's 14 more zeros off, so you now have less than 1 chance in 1, followed by 2,897 zeros of forming Mickey's one-celled genome by random chance. But wait, maybe evolution started in another galaxy. The universe has about 200 billion galaxies. Let's round that up to 1 trillion galaxies. That's another 12 zeros off. So you now have less than 1 chance in 1, followed by 2,885 zeros of forming Mickey's one-celled genome by random chance. But wait, maybe evolution started in a parallel universe. We can't leave any stone unturned. The multiverse might contain 1 trillion universes. That's another 24 zeros. So, if you have 1 billion creatures involving on every square meter of every planet in every galaxy in every universe of the multiverse, changing genes in Planck's time, you now have less than 1 chance in 1, followed by 2,861 zeros, of forming a one-celled genome by random chance. To recap, that's less than 1 chance in 1, followed by all the zeros on this page, plus a chunk on the next page. Wow. Which all pretty much means that we have been bamboozled all these years. Far from being proven, evolution by random chance isn't even possible. Remember, we've been dealing with a simple microbe. If you formed one, you've got to add over 2 billion more base pairs to get to a human being. That raises the difficulty to the 40,000th power. That is 1 chance out of 1, followed by more than 80 million zeros probability of forming a human by random chance. There are 2 major consequences of teaching this falsehood of evolution for so long: erosion of faith and erosion of science. As far as faith goes, if anyone tells you that the fossil record proves random evolution, and that therefore there is no God, they are full of element Bu, pure bolonium. As of now, it appears that the opposite is true. Evolution through random chance is mind-numbingly impossible, and the fossil record represents the scrap parts from the intelligent creator's junkyard. But as far as secular society goes, the false teachings of evolution have led to an age of pseudoscience. The fossil record is an observed phenomenon. Evolution is an hypothesis to explain it. By allowing evolutionists to use the original phenomenon as proof of the hypothesis, we end up with circular logic and excuse to believe almost any theory anyone proposes. For example, I see a light in the sky. It must be a UFO. What's my proof? Well, there's a light in the sky, so that proves it's a UFO. Or, I see a hairy shape running through the woods. It must be Bigfoot. What's my proof? Well, there's a hairy shape running through the woods, so that proves it's Bigfoot. Or Chupacabra, or Atlantis, etc., etc. We need to reverse the disastrous effects of the teaching of evolution on our children's understanding of science. What we need to call out are the pseudoscientists, the evolutionists who want you to believe in science instead of really understanding it. From these pseudoscientists, a cult has arisen, which we call Scientocracy, not Scientology. Because many today have no God, these humans need something to put their faith in. So pseudoscientists who put on lab coats and pretend are elevated to the post of magical wizards. In the eyes of their followers, they are able to expound on any subject, whether they've studied it or not. And they are never wrong because of the magical powers that science gives them. If you don't agree with their preaching, you are stupid. The teachings of Scientocracy are proven with bullying, character assassination, and humiliation, also sometimes referred to as the consensus of the scientific community. And prophets of Scientocracy often aren't real scientists, just opportunistic conmen, or worse, politicians. Given that all the resources of the known and unknown universes could not have produced even the simplest life form by random chance, it should be abundantly clear that some intelligence guided the process. Not just some intelligence, something trillions and trillions and trillions of times more powerful than random chance. Some call that intelligence God, and that exercise of power a miracle. If for some reason at this point you adamantly refuse to accept the idea that God participated in creating us, you have some splaining to do, because without God our view of the universe must be very, very flawed. Maybe we live in a Matrix-style computer simulation, and we just found the first bug. No, wait, don't delete us. Or maybe our cosmology is all wrong, and the universe is a trillion, 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 238 trillions times older than we think it is. Or maybe, just maybe, there is a God and you should give up this superstitious nonsense about spontaneous evolution. For those of you who are Christian, I do have an appeal. If this presentation bolsters your faith in God, please share it with your friends. These words won't save anyone, only Jesus can do that, but this information may ease the minds of people who are being deceived and are troubled. As it says in John 8:32, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Also consider these words, Proverbs 4:7. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And with all you're getting, get understanding. Isaiah 42:6-7 says, I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thine hand, and will keep thee and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light of the Gentiles, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. So please, please, pray, and ask God for the courage to help set the prisoners of Scientocracy free. Well, quod erat demonstrandum, it is sufficiently demonstrated. Thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for more amazing videos.